Mike's working. Is that right? I didn't realise you could hear me, Keith. It's a good job I wasn't saying anything in the background. Hi, everyone. As you probably heard from my last video I did, if you saw it, my back's been really hurting me this week, so my apologies if I haven't dropped any videos. Just wait to see if the chat catches up. Make sure I'm streaming everything. Might check confirmation. Cool, thanks, Bert. Yeah, Keith, it's really interesting what's going on in South America at the moment. It really is interesting to just watch how that is playing out with China getting involved. Hi, Luca. Hey. Hi, Slutbun. Some of the names on YouTube have been so funny. Just get myself sorted out over here. Hey, hoodie woman. Yeah, I got Novichoked. That's the problem. I was Novichoked on Monday, and I haven't been able to do any videos since. But I'm okay now though, so I won't say too much more. Oh, hi James. Yeah, I thought rather than do a video, I thought I'll do a quick live stream. I did have about 3 stories I wanted lined up, but I just couldn't sit up straight. And you know what it's like if you've ever had a back problem. You're constantly like this, just trying to get yourself into a position, and you can't concentrate. But it's getting better. I'm going to go and I'm actually looking into getting a Thai massage, which is pretty much. I looked at a video earlier of it on YouTube, and I thought, yeah, I need that. I need a Thai massage. That's what I need. I need somebody to really straighten me out, because I do feel like a question mark at the moment. I feel like how Forrest Gump was before I had those braces on his legs. Hi Joe. Hi Chris. Hi Phil. I hate the way Theresa May says Novichok says grinder one. Mate, I hate the way Theresa says everything. Just everything. The woman. Have you seen the latest with how they're propping up this far right government in Hungary? The members of parliament voting. There were very few who did, and so they're propping up this. This is a racist, anti-Semitic government. And hardly a word of it in the press today. Hardly a mutter. If Jeremy Corbyn his government had done that, oh, can you imagine the news? Can you imagine the news if the shoe was on the other foot? And that is just something that I see constantly when I'm doing this. The bias in the media, and it's not against Labour per se. It's definitely against Corbyn, and that's because he tells the truth, and it's anybody who is anti-establishment, anybody. Doesn't matter whether they're a politician or a journalist or a musician, it doesn't matter. If they're telling the truth and they're anti-establishment, forget it. They are smeared and ostracised, and the slightest little thing is blown out of all proportion. So yeah, that's something I've noticed. Sorry, I went on a bit of a rant then. I think the weed is kicking in. Yeah, it looks like I'm just reading some of the comments here. It looks like you're all due for the knackers yard, to be honest. I think we're all going to be glue by the end of the year. The info I'm dumping is some heavy shit, says Chris. Yeah, I should be careful. I'll get Novichok. Hi, Bob. Slutburn, you or Jay Oliver, hi. I got tired of people thinking my first name was John or Jamie. I know it's not, but yeah. Hello. Shall we call you Mr. Oliver? Let's call you Mr. Back pain is the worst. Chiropractor helped me for years. Acupuncture is supposed to be good too, says Louisiana hoodie woman. I don't know whether it's the worst. I can think of, I think I think there were other things that are worse. I could go quite graphic there and get. Chiropractors help me too. There's just a problem with it. They're really, really expensive. The guy I saw him I think 3 times, and the first time I saw him was 60. And this is going back about 5 or 6 years. I think he was £65 for a 20 minutes and a consultation, and then the next was like a 40-minute thing, and it was £80, and then the next was it all added up to like £250 for this 3-week course, and he wanted me to do a 6-week course as well, and he really did help. He really helped, but if I can crack my back in the right way, I could do it myself. The problem I've got is I've got nobody now who's going to crack my back. I need to go around my brother's. Maybe he could do it for me. I need somebody really strong to give me a bear hug, if you know what I mean. But there's apparently this Thai massage does the same thing, and it's only like 20 quid. So I thought I'll go there next week and see if that works. Gordon just needs a good stretching on the rack. Yeah, that's how they're going to. If that's the way they torture me, and it sorts my back out when they torture me for telling the truth, then I think I'll be okay with that, Luca. Hello, Thomas Rittenhouse. Oh, Rittenhouse. That was the name of the evil corporation in that program that got cancelled, wasn't it? Hello, fellow progressive from Tigard, Oregon, United States. Hello, Thomas. Good to see you here. James Lindsay says, where are the Skripals, I wonder? Shh. We can't ask that question. We can't ask that question. The 2 rules about the Skripal case. First rule, we can't ask where the Skripals are. Second rule, we can't ask where the Skripals are. Back pain is a toothache and the tooth can't be filled or removed. Good point, Keith. I've had toothache too, and they are similar, but you can pull a tooth. You're right, Gordon. I think we are in 1985. Yeah, that's the year after, hopefully. I haven't finished that book yet, though. I've forgotten how it ended. So don't give it away. Don't worry, Gordon, says Chris Foster. Apparently, Novichok isn't as deadly as it's made out to be. The less said about that, the better. It's just none of that case adds up. None of it. I'll be talking about that a little bit in a bit. Grinder one says, sleep with a pillow between your knees. It worked wonders for me. I've heard that before. Somebody said that to me before as well. Yeah, I've heard that before. Stops you from crossing knees, overlapping them, which is the problem. Maybe that's what's twisting, because I am one of those, sleepers who's really a heavy sleeper but does toss and turn, I've been told. So maybe I'll give it a try. At this stage, I'll try anything. A Chicken says, Gordon, do you believe that those Russian tourists came out to look at Salisbury Spire? I'm going to be talking about that in just a few minutes. That's way too expensive. There's always a week in traction, says Hoodie Woman. I excuse me talking about my that chiropractor. It was really expensive. They do help. They do help. I've heard some. I mean, they don't go as far as chiropractor is not going to solve cancer. It's not that sort, but it will help your back, and your back is all connected. So if you've got a pain in your leg and you've got sciatica, it could be a back problem that's causing it. But then again, I'm no doctor. But they do a good job as long as it's just a case of, okay, I'm going to straighten your spine and stop you having this back pain because you've got a trapped nerve or something like that. But if they're, I've seen some of them go too far and just say they can solve this ailment or that ailment, or as usual. Backseat Hump says, you could do as the Russians, take the pain and carry on. I am. Oh, I've just got a crick there. It goes really stiff, and every now and then I'll move in a certain way and I can feel I've got it and I just need to stretch it out, you know. So the weed helps with the pain. That's basically what I've been doing for 4 days, just trying to exercise and take things for the pain. Another late YouTube notification said, Simon, hey, at least you made it, Simon, you know. YouTube aren't all bad. I don't think they are an evil corporation, but they've got to stop with the censorship. Barney says baby wipes are a good way to combat Novichok. If baby wipes are, well, they're there to clear up bullshit, aren't they? So Luca Clementi says we Americans are the best at believing exceptionally bad propaganda. I don't know. I think the English will give you a run for your money. But you Americans, yes, you do it best. I said do in a sentence. Right, let's just quickly get to this because I'm not sure how long I'm going to be able to go with this back the way it is. No, that's not the button. This is the button. So, I'm sure you've seen by now, but I'm going to show you again anyway. 2 days ago, this happened. Let's get the video lined up. So 2 days ago, this happened.
Мы, конечно, посмотрели, что это за люди. Мы знаем, кто они такие уже. Мы их нашли. Ну, надеюсь, что они сами появятся и сами себе расскажут, как будет.
I hope they show up. Look at him smiling. Look at him smiling.
Лучше для всех.
Honestly, this guy is trolling now. He's just trolling the West. I think he's had enough of the bullshit and he's just trolling. I really do. He knew where these guys were. He knew all about them.
Ничего там особенного и криминального нет, уверяю вас. Ну, посмотрим в ближайшее время.
Они гражданские?
Что?
Они гражданские?
Не слышу.
Гражданские?
Гражданские, конечно. Ну, конечно.
So there he is.
Ну, ладно.
They are civilians. Oh, there's a little bit more.
Я и хочу к ним обратиться.
Oh, he makes a joke at the end. That was very funny.
Сегодня.
People laughed. But yeah, so that was 2 days ago. And then yesterday we get excerpts of an interview that they had done with RT. Well, what a surprise. What a surprise. So Putin says he knows who they are, and lo and behold, they appear the very next day. Now, I saw the excerpts. I was flat on my back, and I saw the excerpts, I saw the videos, watched them in bed, and I must admit, I thought he was talking about the question about the cathedral, and I must admit, I thought you're being far too specific there. There's people who lie who always pick specifics out, you know, and go too far. But anyway, these two guys are Ruslan Boshirov and Alexander Petrov. And there they are, up there over my shoulder. And that's their real names. We were told that they were GRU agents and they were travelling on fake passports. It's interesting, isn't it? Okay, so I watched excerpts of it and it looked a little bit dodgy, but today I watched the full 27-minute interview. So I think it's about 22 minutes or something like that is of an interview, and the rest is just like an advert for RT. But I think once you watch the whole interview, you can get a better gauge of what is actually going on here, because we're not getting told the truth from either side here, obviously. So, first of all, they explain why they visited Salisbury. And they say that they visit Salisbury because Salisbury is a tourist attraction, and that they were going to visit Stonehenge and the weather was bad. Now, all of that does actually make sense. It does make sense. But that could have been a cover story anyway. Obviously, an agent would watch your cover story if it all gets blown. My cover story is XYZ. Okay. So that could be a cover story anyway. So there are excuses with regards to that. But their excuse could be that, hey, we were just tourists. So What are they? Are they just tourists? It's so funny watching this because it's almost like none of the actors in this story are telling the truth. Any of them. None of them at all. The only one really who's been close to the truth is actually Putin, because he said, "Oh, we know who they are," and then they turned up anyway. So they talked about how they travel regularly for work, as well as a tourist, but they travel regularly for work, and that started me thinking, because they were really, they did not want to answer any questions at all, none at all, on their work or anything they did for business, because they didn't want to talk about other people. Other people would have to get involved in that sort of thing. So straight away I'm thinking, well, if you really do just work in the health industry, then that's a load of baloney. Unless they're, I don't know, selling those supplements that aren't exactly on approval lists, shall we say. If that's the case and they were doing something dodgy there, who knows? But here's the thing. I also think that there's some people have said that their gaydar was going off, and these two guys. First of all, if they are a couple, so what? Second of all, if they are a couple, then they're definitely not GRU agents. That's for sure. And there's one thing that they did say which doesn't corroborate with what our government is saying, and that's the timestamp on this photo, because they say they actually walked through there together. They didn't walk through. You see here, there's two separate ones, and that's the way it was explained to us. But they say that they actually both walked through one of them. So they said that we would have to ask the authorities to explain that, and not them. So it's all quite confusing still. But once you watch the whole video, and I'm sure anybody who has watched the whole video will corroborate this, I got the overwhelming feeling that they were absolutely petrified. Both of them. Especially the guy on the left. They were petrified. They genuinely did not think that any of this, I think, was around the corner. And it certainly doesn't scream to me that they are some sort of undercover GRU agent at all. So that sort of blows all the theories out the water. They're bewildered, both of them, as to what's going on, is what I'm trying to say. Now, I don't believe any of them with regards to their health stuff that they do for their business. Just, they didn't want to talk about it. You could see something was scratched beneath the surface, and there was something there, and that's why they weren't trying to sell something. But other than that, their story does seem plausible, that they, visited Salisbury because it's a cathedral and that it's a big tourist attraction, and that could be the case. It's not as if I'm going to rule that out. It could be, but it also could be the cover story that a spy would give anyway. Not that I'm saying they're spies, they're definitely not, that's for sure. And that's what troubles me. But even though that troubles me, it doesn't change the story one bit in my mind anyway. Because this whole Skripal story, really, if it was a play, which is the way I look at it, it's like a movie being played out in front of me. I'm just trying to guess the ending of it. These two guys are just bit part players. Because, as I've said before, and I keep pointing to, this is all connected to Christopher Steele. That's the key point here. And as we know, Christopher Steele, he's, I think, one of the main actors in this play. And he's where we need to keep our attention. And that's what I think of it all, guys. I hope that makes sense. And I hope I've sort of got through a few twinges of pangs of pain. Sorry about that. I think I got through everything I wanted to say on that. I think I did. I wrote it down, so I don't usually write everything down, but I didn't want to forget anything. Hoodie Woman, Louisiana says, our two adventurers are in trouble as gay is illegal in Russia and performance enhancing substances are frowned upon. They are outed and their business is sunk. I think you've got those the wrong way around, to be honest. Being gay isn't illegal in Russia. It's, not exactly looked upon as it is in Western cultures, but it's not illegal. They do get treated quite badly in some areas, but then so do gay people in Western, cultures. And as for the use of performance enhancing substances, didn't they dope the whole entire Russian Olympic team or something? It doesn't. None of it makes sense to me. So the bit that I keep getting to is, what could they be? What would explain their part of the story? But do I need to? See, you could easily explain that side. Their role in this story by just saying, I don't know, they could be Russian Ministry of Defense. That would explain it. They could be Russian Ministry of Defense, not actually working for the government, but working for a contractor for the Russian Ministry of Defense. That would be one explanation. But there are so many others. It's confusing, this story, as it really is. But none of them are telling the truth. None of them. Not Russia, not... It's like I say, the one who's told us closest to the truth so far was Putin. This just jumped on me really badly. Sorry, guys. Joe Hickey says, I thought they sounded like sex tourists now terrified. Who are they connected to? Follow the money. I think this Skripal thing is arse gravy, same as Russiagate. I think it's all tied into Russiagate. I really do. I think it's all tied into this Still dossier. It must do. It must, because that's just... It's too much of a coincidence. It's far too much of a coincidence for those two stories to cross over. It's just far too much of a coincidence for them to, overlap in that way. He must have been helping getting dirty. That could explain it all. And if that was the case, then it certainly wouldn't point to Russia as being the bad guys. I think that's the point I try and make. I hope that makes sense. Andy Mode says, to help bad neck, stand with back against the wall. I do it, mate. Then shuffle feet forward so legs are straight, making triangle. Slowly straighten, hold back, neck. Yeah, and when I get up there as well, what I do is I sort of... all you have to do is... I can't do it now because it'll be too painful. I'll try. You sort of just tuck your chin underneath your neck, and that stretches the part of my back that is misaligned. It's like a trapped nerve in between my shoulder blades. I've had it 3 or 4 times now. Thomas R. Medicare plus supplemental plan, 2,500 pair of tiny heating aids cost me $50 on supplemental policy. Says Hoodie Woman. That sounds like an American horror story of their for-profit healthcare service to me. I'm not sure whether I read that correctly, but that's what it sounds like. Doesn't matter if the lies are debunked, the government will continue to repeat the lies. Well, yeah, that's exactly true. It's exactly true. They're not even original lies now either. The lies are not even original. I mean, how many times have we heard the chemical weapons lie now? We know what's going on over there. Stop trying to fool us. Stop trying to fool the public into doing, to being dumb to the decisions that you're making on their behalf. Stop trying to, treat them like mushrooms, keep them in the dark and feed them on bullshit. Just give them the truth. Because if you give them the truth, they might surprise you. The best way to gain support is to tell people the truth. That's the best way to gain support. Do it. Stop Stop creating narratives for the media to give the public on your behalf so you can go off and do this evil shit. And they do it. They really do. Just look at Syria. It is a mess over there at the moment. An absolute mess. And it's all caused by what? It's all caused by the fact that Syria's come off the petrodollar and doesn't want that massive ass gas pipeline put through its country, supplying oil, gas to Europe. That's it. That's what it comes down to. And obviously, Syria is the launching point for Iran. They don't like the fact that Russia and Iran are getting involved in Syria. Well, tough shit. That's not your decision to make. Tough shit. Get out. And I'm talking to America and the UK and Israel and Saudi Arabia. A lot of them get out. They've been making this same mistake for 50 years now. 50 years. And I've only been studying it for what, just over 2? And I keep finding instance after instance after instance where, especially America, but with Britain's help for sure, and the likes of Australia and others, just going in and destroying countries, not just overturning them, but with economic sanctions as well. Keith was talking about that at the beginning of this stream. You know, the sanctions they're putting on Venezuela are more crippling than the problems that Venezuela has actually got. And the problem Venezuela's got is that it runs on socialism, and it wants to run on socialism. And empires do not like that at all. I think I was all over the place with that rant. Hi, Nikki. Nikki says Galloway did a good job analysis of these guys, of who these guys aren't. Galloway does a lot of my information I get from George Galloway. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he's been on the right side of history as well. I'm a big fan of his. Oh, Joe Hickey just says, yup, agree, Gordon. They are connected, no such thing as a coinkydink in this game. It's just a coincidence, coincidence that they happen all the time, but one this big, come on. Pull the other one. It's got bells on because this one ain't ringing. It's obviously connected with it. Obviously. And they're being told not to talk about it. Well, if by telling them not to talk about it, fine. But don't ramp up pressure with a nuclear power on something that is so obviously bullshit. And it's jumped on me again. Sorry. Thanks, Pamela. Pamela agrees with me. 1/10,000 says, did you read Craig Murray's two latest blogs on this? He did a good job deconstructing what was happening with regards to it could be a plausible story. He's saying what they're saying could be a plausible story, and it could. Like I say, it could be, and it could just as well be, a cover story, and it could just as well be two guys who are working for the Russian Ministry of Defense or a contractor of them. It could be any of them, but their story certainly holds up. But they were there in Salisbury at that time, so they can say, well, yeah, it was snowing and what have you. Those excuses do ring true. The problem is it all connects to Christopher Steele. That's the problem. These two guys are just bit part actors. I think what we've seen now is pretty much any thoughts of Putin did it. They're very slim now. I'm not saying it's out of the question, but it's almost there. I mean, does anybody believe Putin ordered this hit on the Skripals? Anybody? Anywhere? Does anybody want to put their hand up and say, yes, I believe it? Because if you do, then, as the old saying goes, I have a bridge to sell you. Bob Crutch says they don't even hide the lies now. I know. I know. And like I say, they're regurgitating old lies as well. They're just regurgitating them. Alfonso Lapulse says America's medical system equals future of the NHS under the Tory disaster capitalists. Oh dear. Oh dear me. I watched I don't see many now, but I watched. Jamal Thomas did a video on the UK, and whenever he does a video on the UK, I will always make sure I listen because often he has angles that I haven't even thought of. He's a really great analyst, Jamal is, and he did a video with the story of the Tories' plan post Brexit. All credit for Jamal Thomas for noticing this because I didn't. But Tories' plan post Brexit, the way that their secondary austerity measures was called the Yellow Hammer, which is a tiny little bird. I was a bird watcher when I was a kid, and I remember the beautiful things. Nice little song, but it's called a Yellow Hammer, and the reason they named it after this bird was because there was an Enid Blyton. I'm not sure whether it was a poem or a story, but Enid Blyton wrote a poem, I think it was, called The Yellow Hammer, and the ethos of it was a little bit of bread, no cheese, and that's why they called the post-Brexit policy the Yellow Hammer. How fucking evil is that? How evil is that and Machiavellian? Oh, that's the Tories for you. All credit to Jamal for that because I didn't spot that at all. It was really good work that he did. Let's just skipped all the way down to the bottom. Andy Mode says Julia Hartley Brewer was allowed to claim unchallenged on Question Time last night that the suspects had been seen on the Skripal's doorstep. Did she mean on the doorstep as in the vicinity of? Because that is a saying, isn't it? Almost on your doorstep. I didn't see what she said. What do you think about Julia Hartley Brewer, guys? Let me know in the chat because I haven't seen enough of her, but I see one thing that she does and it infuriates me, and then I see the next thing she does and I think, yeah, she's got that right, and everybody else is wrong. So she's confused. She confuses me. She does. Kinky says the problem Venezuela has is us, the US. Period. I think it's the major one. I do. I think it's the major one. You know, they're really holding that country back. They really are. Yeah, and then they're holding the country back and then going, look at how bad it is over there. While they're throttling it like you wouldn't believe. Look how blue it's getting and they're strangling it. Look, it's going to lose consciousness. They're the ones choking it, you know. It's not all Maduro's fault. And he's, like I say, his crime is he wants socialism. He's a Bolivarian. They apparently found traces in the hotel room, says Amanda Rake, but nothing happened. The hotel wasn't even shut down. I heard a story saying the hotel was shut down and it was fumigated and everything, and the story was kept out of the papers. And I also heard that the owner, I think it was George Galloway I heard this from, the owner didn't know or something like that. But like I say, I think this is a bit part story. Oh, Joe Hick, I haven't seen that yet. She says, another busload of kids in Yemen. That's the third one now. That must be breaking news. Because I haven't seen that today. Gotta get it. I've had enough of these wars. I've had enough of these wars. It's Chomsky, isn't it? Chomsky says if you want to defeat terrorism, stop creating terrorists. But the war on terror wasn't meant to defeat terrorism. The war on terrorism was meant. There's something I thought. I was thinking about this the other day while I was lying horizontal in pain, and I was trying to get my head around what really I could think about the war on terrorism. It's not. There's not a war on terrorism at all. It's just an export of it. You don't fight terrorists in America, in the UK. You export them. That's basically what the deal is here. Maybe that was a particularly good sativa, though, that made me think that. Phil Riley says, I find Julia Hartley Brewer mostly repellent. Like I say, I find there are some things that she says I just think, well, that's just nonsense. And then there are other times when everybody else is wrong and she's right. It's she's confusing. Thomas Rittenhouse says Facebook and YouTube are censoring dissent here in the states that are anti-war, anti-occupied territories, or post-anti-Saudi war with Yemen, but leave up the lies that lead us all to these wars. That's exactly what happens. And they put, the fake news that they say they're fighting, they put the fake news right at the very top of the results. It's what we're living in. Keith Durant says, that is almost Marie Antoinette shit. Let them have bread, no cake. Yeah, that was a really bad. I thought that was, particularly evil, which is saying something for the Tories, particularly evil. Alfonso Lapulse says, agreed, Jamal's stuff on the UK is great. Good to get an outside perspective. That Yellowhammer stuff was crazy. It was scary. We're getting as bad as the US for doublespeak, e.g. right to work, Citizens United, yeah. I thought that story was evil. I thought Jamal did a great job on that. Nikki says, I think JHB Brewer is generally awful, but I agreed with her for the first time this week. Interview with South Yorkshire Police Commissioner about his plan to have a phone line for non-crimes. I think that could have been one I saw that I thought, oh, I agree with her. So we could be talking about the same thing. Andy Mode says, Hartley Brewer is like a right-wing Piers Morgan. Fake concern. Yeah, okay. That's that would explain a lot, Andy. That would explain a lot. Occasionally with Piers Morgan, I do agree with him, even though I can't stand him. So it does explain a lot. Only very occasionally, though, I might add. Keith Durant, over 3,000 Venezuelans who wanted to come home have been flown back by Venezuela. They are encountering neoliberalism for the first time. Shit. Wow, going for a shot. This just jumped massively again. Scroll up a bit. And the problem with socialism is quite simple. We are not equal. Mark? It's a damn good point. It's a damn good point. A war of terror, says Two-Time. The war is terrorism, says Keith Durant. Truth is treason, says war on drugs is the same. Kinky says no consequences for war crimes anymore. I don't think there ever have been. I don't think there has been since Nuremberg. I think you could make the case that pretty much every one of the, certainly American leaders and the UK leaders probably additionally, certainly majority of them should face war crimes. Ever since what? Since Nuremberg. Leonard Hand says that was 2 to 3 days ago, but yeah, poor kids. Oh, yeah, you were talking about Yemen. Oh, yeah, I saw the one 2 to 3 days ago. But like I say, this week's been a bit of a blur, a bit of a haze, shall we say? Yet no outrage from the States. Apparently, US foreign policy holds more currency for the lives of Al Qaeda than civilians in Yemen. Yeah, the one that they did report on was the 40 kids that were killed in the bomb that was made by Lockheed Martin. And the only reason I think that they reported on that was because online was so loud in their condemnation of it. It really was. They could not talk about it Even with the suppression, it gets round. So it was online that was the problem. We need to keep being loud with every one of these crimes. Ooh. Two's Time says, have you already covered the sad spat going on between Jamal Thomas, ABB, and AEM? Seems to me they're all on the same side and invested hard. The difference in knowledge creates division. I've seen Jamal saying some stuff on Twitter, but I don't know who he's talking about. I don't know the people he's talking about. So it all seems just a little bit of a nonsense and childish, and I tend to stay out of those things, to be honest. Backseat Hump says the US has been choking the third world for a long, long time, particularly Latin America. They have with Latin America, that's for sure. It really is. Oh. Just leave other countries alone. Leave them alone. Get on with your own country. Look at it. It's a fucking mess. Sort your own country out. What right have we got to try and fix other countries? Have you seen how broken ours are? A Cine fan says, what is your thought on John Bolton's threat against the ICC? It sounded like coming straight from the actual Nazi. Well, this is the International Criminal Court, isn't it, that he's basically threatened. Listen, it's John Bolton, you know. It's John Bolton. He's a crazy man. He's a crazy, sociopathic, psychopathic nutcase, you know. I think Trump has basically just said, just go out there and just be you know, and he is. He just is. I don't think Trump cares either, by the sound of it, as long as he's, you know, not taking too much of the spotlight away from Trump. John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, Gina Haspel. These people, wow, he surrounds himself with the best people, for sure, doesn't he? As to the question, what is your thought on it? Yeah, it's just John Bolton being John Bolton, but I can't remember exactly what the threat was. It was serious. I remember that. I can't remember exactly what the threat was, but he's just threatening everybody. John Bolton is. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's what he does. He threatens everybody. Wild Goose 59 says Operation Yellowhammer, just another example of public school humour. That's, man, there's public school humour and there's fucking evil, and I think we're way past public school humour on that one. That's really bad, that is. Yellowhammer. Nicky M says socialism doesn't say we are or have to be equal. Good point. Good point. Audience is so smart. Oh, if you want to, Joe says, if you want an image of the future, Winston. Oh, he's just jumped on me, Joe. Imagine an iron boot stomping on a human face forever. 1984. Just don't give the ending away. I'm only joking. Right, we're down at the bottom now. Keith Durant. The US president is pre-authorized to invade The Hague under George Bush Hague Invasion Act if any US ally is held by the court. Did Bolton ever serve? Says Zoman. Yeah, I don't know. He's very hawkish, and they usually don't if they are. But, well, I don't think it matters with them, does it? No, it doesn't. Whether they have military experience or not, they're all hawkish. Mark Damon says, I agree with the concept that you pay as little tax as is legally possible. I agree with the concept that you pay as much tax as you should, based on a sliding scale. We've got a system that we need to change, and the system is that people who are honest pay more tax than those who are evil. We've got to change that because the system rewards you being evil. That needs to change. Two's Time says, it is important as they are all left. It is important as they are all left. The division is very sad, divide and conquer. We need all to be more forgiving and capability and knowledge, and also be open to criticism. I don't know what that's in relation to Two's Time, but that might be my pain. I mean, maybe my back hurting, so I can't understand. I'm sorry about that. Tabitha Enrique says, socialism, we all deserve decent homes, education, healthcare, food and water. It's not difficult. It's just, socialism isn't, we're not going down the route of, I mean, I'm certainly not a fan of, for instance, going down the route of, you have a taxi driver getting paid the same amount of money as a brain surgeon. I'm not that far, left of whatever you want to put me. But I certainly think that if you are in a full-time job and you're working 40 hours a week, no matter what that job is, even if it's picking up trash, okay, or mowing, whatever you think is the easiest, most menial job, I certainly think that somebody working 40 hours a week doing that job should be able to have a family, have food on the table, have a vehicle of some kind, have means of transportation, and be able to afford to live in a house, and a house that is befitting of our society. That's what I believe, and we're pretty fucking far from that, so it needs to change. Kinky says, socialism promises people over profits, capitalism promises profit over people. That's the difference. People over profits. Yeah, I just... It's right. It's right. What you're saying is right. I've got no problem with what you're saying. I just don't like... I tend not to try and... I can't explain this. I'm not explaining myself well. I try not to boil everything down into short things like that demonise the other side, because that automatically, the other side, you get them on the defensive, and what you actually want is to talk. I hope that makes sense. I hope it does. Chris Grinton, can you comment on Jeff Bezos willing to give $2 billion for charity but nothing to the people who worked for him to create it? That's a perfect example, Chris Grinton. Yeah, I can comment on that. I think it's fucking disgusting what that guy does. I'll give $2 billion away for charity. Pay your workers. Oh no, but look at the charity. Pay your workers. Yeah, but look at the charity. I can pay your workers. Just pay your workers. It goes perfectly into what I was saying. They are working damn hard. These people are as well. From what I can tell, a job at Amazon is no walk in the park. It's no walk in the park, and you get no benefits whatsoever. Not in America anyway. I haven't seen too many reports of it being that bad over here, but I know it's not great. I've seen what Sports Direct have their employees under, and it's a lot of stress and it's a lot of strain. So they should be getting plenty to be able to support their families. They're putting themselves through extreme pressure, and they're getting nothing. And then he wants to go and give $2 billion away. It's just an asshole, complete and utter asshole. Chris Foster says, try and imagine the system. Imagine all the people. Try and imagine the system we have at the moment, but without money at all. Instead, we could have a social contract that people, people work a 3-day week. In return, society provides whatever you require. Depends on what that work is. I'm interested. Chris, what's the how do you figure out with your social contract who the person is who's scrubbing the toilets, or who's the person who's unclogging the drains from those big fat burgers that stick in the drains after Christmas with all their fur and hair and everything? Who decides what social contract? That's the problem. I like your way of thinking, but that's the problem with that. I can never get further than that because nobody would want to do that job. There has to be an incentive in some way. I'm sure there's a solution to it. I'm sure there is. I'd try and envision like a Star Trek kind of future for the planet, but I really am a dreamer. Keith Durant says exactly 40 hours a week working means you should never need government assistance in anything. Yeah, and what Bernie Sanders has done in America is great. The bill he's introduced has made it, if the bill passes, and it's a good bill, so chances are it won't, but I haven't heard the reports on it. But it would basically mean that if the Amazon employees or employees at Walmart or any of these large companies, if any of these workers had to have additional food stamps to top up their wages, then they would have to pay those back to the government. Just make it so the minimum wage is higher. Just make it so the minimum wage is a living wage, and problem solved. But it's a good bill that Bernie's put in. Would address that point. Ooh, somebody's just. Sorry, it just skipped on me just as I said. It just skipped on me all the way bottom just as I saw it. But somebody said, if you pay your taxes at the moment, you are funding terrorism. Ooh, ouch! Now, whoever said that, nice one. That's satire at its worst, that is. Kinky says, now that we know that YouTube takes 30% of our super chops, please sign on to Streamlabs. Nice to be able to donate a full sum to the content provider. I've got a PayPal me below that I've got set up for people if they want to just send donations, one-off donations like that. And it comes up, so I've done it. Nicky M says, "See, we've got it sorted already, guys." Nicky M says, "Hey, if you work in the sewer, you only work 1 day a week." We're getting see, we can build a society. Let's put our heads together. The flat tax does. Mark Diamond says the flat tax does not apply below the living wage, including inflation. Oh right, okay, you're talking to Alfonso. I understand. Andy Moe says many people don't mind doing gross jobs. Try changing a nappy. Yeah, but that's your own kids, isn't it? It's different when you ain't your own kids. Try changing another kid's nappy. But then I've not got any kids. They all disgust me. Excuse me. Right, let's jump down to the bottom. Kinky says, that's why I quit my job. I couldn't stand funding terrorism. Alright, last one because it's about my back and my back really is hurting. Two Times says, I have an L5 slip disc and permanent numbness, so I feel your pain, but not my right foot. It was regard to my previous comment with JT and conflict with the left on YouTube. Like I say, I think he's gone to Twitter on it. But I don't know the people he's arguing with, so I don't know what it's about. I don't think it's best arguing in public anyway. So, Kinky, thank you for checking out the PayPal. If you do send me a message, excuse me. If you do send me a message, I'll read it out in my next video. Thanks very much, everybody. I'm going to stop this now because I need to go and lie down. I know, my big baby. But if anybody's had back pain, they will know it really, really does hurt. I'll be back tomorrow though. I am feeling better than I was doing. I was in the last few days. I'll be posting more videos. I'll clip the stuff I've done up tonight and post that. Thanks very much for your support, everyone. Really appreciate it. And I'll be back to it tomorrow, and hopefully put out, a good 45 minutes a day of content for you on the stuff that I find interesting. Keep you all informed. Thanks very much, everyone. Peace. Take care.